I'm Carrie McMillan. The Lord had been really weaving Lima, Peru throughout my life, which is unbelievable. And then when Brian talked about doing a vision trip to Lima, Peru in August of 2024, God just really spoke to me through the Holy Spirit saying, you need to come back and you need to stay. And so I started saying, Lord, what does that mean? And the Lord really focused on coming back for several months. And in talking to Jake Glover and Dodie Glover, they felt the same thing. They felt like I should come back for more time. So I went back from August to January. I went back in January for 3 months. And the team from First Baptist came to join me in my mission, and that was just one of the most beautiful things. Seeing them at the airport, coming in, it was just, such a joy to have your home church with you on the mission field.
I'm Brian Gay. I'm the Minister of Missions at First Baptist Church. And as soon as I heard that Carrie wanted to go to Peru for a more extended period of time, I knew that we wanted to go down and support her. So I started immediately planning a trip down to go while she was there so that we could go and support her and the ministry that she had been called to.
I'm Ben Hulsey, and I wanted to go to heed the call of God's Word in Matthew 28:19 and 20, which says, go and make disciples. And our church gives us some amazing opportunities to do this through our annual missions menu that's published by our missions team.
My name is Eddie Stewart. I think Henry Blackaby said it best when he taught us in Experiencing God that we're to find where God is at work and join Him. Lima, Peru is where God is definitely at work. And this was an opportunity for me to join God in a place where He is already at work. And it's been an incredible experience and one that has changed me forever.
The week that our team was there, we focused prayer walks on Thursday in the Cerquillo area. And that we were focusing on a new church plant that Jake and Dodie are looking to plant a church in Cerquillo. And it's already in the works, but now, see, it's coming. We prayer walked it, and now it's happening. And of course, they had prayer walked it before, but we were just very, very intentional about seeking people of peace, people that are open to the gospel. And there's a huge market there, so we got to pray for the market.
Most of the people we approached were very welcoming to us. They were very anxious to meet us as Americans and to hear what we had to say. And they were very gracious. And I would say that many of them took the literature we gave them and were very anxious to hear about Jesus. And we hope that some of the seeds we planted there will be cultivated by some of the pastors and the IMB missionaries there on the field.
The culture is really different in Peru than it is here. There's definitely a hierarchy of men, being over women, and the women do all the work actually as far as the kids are concerned and the family. They're always there. They're going to be taking care of the kids. That's their primary job. But also just differences in the way that people think. So it's not just how they act, but it's how they think. And so when you're trying to share the gospel, you have to break through some of those barriers to be able to get through to what is the ultimate intention of the person. And so ultimately we know that they want to receive Jesus. And that's actually one of the really interesting things too, is that Catholicism is really big in Latin America and Peru also, but it's a Catholicism that's not focused on Jesus, it's focused on idol worship. So they'll have an idol of Jesus, an idol of Mary, an idol of Peter, but that's what they're worshiping, and they're still kind of animistic in their culture and their religion. But ultimately the need is Jesus, right? They need to have a relationship with him in their heart, not just going to an altar and praying and lighting a candle, but ultimately asking Jesus to come into their heart. And so that's what the purpose is of these trips, is to go in and just share Jesus.
Culture-wise, I was really impressed with the friendliness of the Peruvian people. Ben and I canvassed one afternoon, just a neighborhood, to tell them about a new church start that was coming up. And so we encountered a lot of people, mainly in the shopping district, and we would go into all these shopkeepers. And whereas in the United States, you would probably get thrown out for even trying to spread the gospel or even tell somebody about, an opportunity to further the gospel in your neighborhood. These shop owners, these individuals, they would call fellow employees together and would come and listen to what we were talking about. They just seemed so much more focused on not the material things of this world, but the spiritual things of this world. And I wish we had more of that in this country, especially in this time.
On Friday, they had a medical clinic. It was in via El Salvador, but it was behind a community center that was in a different part from where Pastor Walter's original church was.
While there was medical clinic going on, we went out door to door to go share with people about what was happening, but also just to share the gospel. And so it was really, really interesting to see how some people would be open and some people would be closed. The people that were open were really open. We had one guy that I remember sharing with. He had a little bit of some medical issues going on, and so as we were there talking to him about Jesus and saying, hey, there's a medical clinic down the road, he was like, oh, that's great, I want to go right now. And he ended up closing up his shop and going and walking with us to the clinic.
A couple of the ladies in Pastor Walter's church accompanied us on the prayer walks, were fearless. They would go up to the doors after we knocked, nobody was there, and they would bang, 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 I know you're in there, come on out. And they would literally force the people to the door, and then of course they would greet them, and we would have a conversation with them to invite them to a medical clinic or to the local church. And once they came to the door, they were glad we were there, but these ladies were very persistent, and it was a great lesson for all of us on being persistent when you're sharing the gospel of Jesus.
So obviously communication is different because they speak Spanish in Peru. And yeah, I do speak Spanish because I grew up in the mission field. I grew up in Mexico most of my life. So it's a slightly different Spanish. I guess there's a little bit of a different accent, but it's the same language. And so I was able to communicate, but it's hard sometimes because the team doesn't understand Spanish. They only understand English. So, and I was there trying to engage in Spanish. So sometimes it's hard to be able to shift back and forth between engaging the people and also being a translator. So that's where I was really grateful for Raul.
So Raul had worked with us in August when we had been before. And then when the team came in March, we all wanted Raul again because Raul has a servant's heart.
We were very blessed to have the same interpreter in August of 2024 and then again in March of 2025. Raul was our AKA Mr. Miyagi. If you see a picture of him, you will, and if you ever saw Karate Kid, you'll understand what we're talking about. He looked exactly like Mr. Miyagi. Even his email address, I think, has Mr. Miyagi in it. But small in stature, but huge in his faith, huge in his love for the Lord. He was our interpreter throughout, and because the Peruvian language, the Spanish that they speak is so fast, they can speak faster than he can interpret. So he has to, kind of dumb it down for us. And at first, that was a little bit of a hindrance to some of the things we were doing, particularly if we'd go in a crowd and want to give a testimony about what Christ did in our lives. But yet, as we did this more and more, it almost became second nature that you learn to speak in ways, at least I learned to speak in ways that gave him time to interpret, and it also gave me time to reflect on what it is I was saying.
And he had a big appetite, and oftentimes after our meals, he would take our leftovers home. And I questioned him one time about that, and he said, no, Ben, this isn't for me. I have many homeless people living in my neighborhood, and I'm taking the food there to feed them. And my heart warmed as he said that. And to me, Raul was living out Romans 12:13, which says, give to those people who are in need.
Share Jesus and share an M&M. I am.
First time.
Tres.
For me,
Savor the taste. Savor the taste. ¿Te gusta? Mucho gusto. Mucho gusto. Me gusta mucho. Mucho. Me gusta mucho. He likes much. Okay, good. Thank you. Your first M&Ms. Raul, our wonderful translator brother in Christ, had his first peanut M&Ms today. We're celebrating the moment.
The way we met Pastor Walter was through Jake. So Jake is the IMB missionary that's serving there in Peru. And Pastor Walter was someone that he really wanted to introduce us to. He knew that our church had a heart for ministry to disabled people, especially through Hope Heals and just the ministry that Jay and Catherine Wolf had started kind of related to our church. And so when he heard that, he said, I want to get you in touch with Pastor Walter.
Pastor Walter Mateus ministers in a very poor area called Villa El Salvador. And he just had an adult disabled son pass away in January of 25, so he has a very tender heart for disabled families. And in Lima, Peru, the disabled families are pretty much neglected and minimized by society. So Pastor Walter has specifically set up not one, but several churches to embrace and invite families with handicapped members to come to share the gospel, to love on them.
Pastor Walter, as you recall, his son Aaron passed away before we were down there in March. And we were able to help him with some gifts on his medical expenses as well as hospital charges and burial expenses. But when we got down there, we had Pastor Walter and his wife and their family put on a dinner, a luncheon for us, which was fit for a king. It was food everywhere, ice cream. We celebrated Pastor Walter's birthday. But for a family that had just lost a loved one and who don't have a lot of material things, yet they, put on everything you could expect for a banquet almost to make sure that they were taking care of their guests from the United States who had come to their country. We were united in our desire to see Christ preached and spreading the good news.
We had the amazing opportunity of being able to worship in the morning in Pastor Walter's original church and seeing them send him out to start this new church for people with disabilities and their caregivers. And then that evening, we were able to go to the church worship service and then the community center where they had held the medical clinic and have people with disabilities and their caregivers coming in and worshiping together. It was beautiful.
On Saturday morning, we went up into the poor area of town, literally up a hill, because this church is located and this village was located on the remains of an old garbage dump. And every Saturday morning, Pastor Walter hosts a children's program for some of the young kids in the neighborhood. And to see their faces, to singing songs, to praise Jesus, and to see them and participate in games with them, it really warmed my heart.
It would bring all the kids in from that area, and they were some very young, some 5, 6 years old, up to maybe 10 or 12 years old. And again, we would put on a program with the help of Pastor Walter's staff as well. And the games that they would play with these kids, you know, they don't speak a bit of English, but they play the same games that we play with kids in the United States. Kids, you know, same games I play with my grandkids. But again, it didn't matter that you couldn't speak the language. Just smiling, laughing, playing games with them, they just thought that was everything. And we played quite a few games. They make you let your inhibitions down. Too many times we try to put on this false front, you know, of seriousness and everything. And you know, there's times when you need to have fun, and when you're around the kids, they make you have fun. And if you don't enjoy that, you've missed a blessing.
Some ways to pray for Peru, I'd say start with the missionaries. So Jake and Dodie Glover, and lifting them up, because they have the opportunity to make a huge impact, not only on Pastor Walter's church, but also on the whole city of Lima, which is where they're leaders for the whole city of Lima. So pray for them. Pray for Pastor Walter. They lost their disabled son this last year, and so that was real heart-wrenching. That he was 24, I believe, and had lived his whole life as completely disabled with a lot of medical problems. And his passing was very hard for them. But at the same time, they're encouraged to continue moving on and sharing the gospel and sharing the love of Jesus with everybody in their communities. And pray for the people in the community. Pray. They are, some of them, in really hard times as far as poverty, but pray also for their spiritual poverty. We don't want anybody to be lost without Jesus. And so pray for opportunities for pastors and Christians to go in and to share the love of Jesus with everyone that they can.
Praying for Jake and Dodie. It is a huge ministry that they are over, that the Lord has put under them, and always seeking the Lord for His direction in their ministry and new ways and new church plants. So, and then really the next thing is church plants. So the church plant in Surquillo that they're starting, and then there are many other church plants starting in Lima, and it is exciting. But there needs to be more, and then the church plants to grow and become sustainable.
You know, it's not material things that they need, it's spiritual things, much like for the United States. That's really my prayer right now, is that even in the United States, that we would have a return to the things of God, to what the Bible teaches. And Peru is no different than that.
Pray for Peru.
Pray for Peru.
Pray for Peru.
Pray for all our brothers and sisters in Peru.